All right, what's up? How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to the Battle of the Sexes, where we're gonna pick a topic and have a discussion amongst the panelists. We might agree, we might not agree. We gonna might agree to disagree, but we're gonna make sure we hear everybody's insight and perspectives from the opposite sex. With all that saying, let's go ahead and get into the first topic.
So I will say that it's a problem with both men and women. I
Yes.
don't think in general we're being raised to be marriage minded because a lot of people aren't getting married anymore like they used to.
Yes.
So someone posted something on my YouTube channel and they were like, black women are raised to be mothers or single mothers, but not raised to be wives.
I've seen something like that.
Yeah, so it's like those qualities, yes, those are things that a man can appreciate, but how do you operate in a partnership? How do you function as a unit? When you start thinking about those qualities, I think that's where we struggle a little bit.
Yep.
And it sucks because I think we're getting, again, the short end of the stick. We were raised in environments where we have to have a tougher exterior.
Yes.
From a young age, you have to like grow up really quick. And so I think we just have to unlearn a lot of those things. And that's conflicting with us trying to be in a relationship.
What y'all think?
I'm trying to gather in because a lot of times I think the whole we black people thing is like we're not a monolith. We're like different individuals. No one's raised the same. No one's brought up the same. I mean, you have to have a tough exterior to be in life. And I don't think it's exclusive to being black. I think as far as women being raised to be married, I'm not sure about that because I haven't lived with, I'm not married, never been married, and I don't have any girls. So I'm not sure how they're actually raised. The women I've dealt with, they've been kind of marriage material. I'm just fucked up. So that's how I kind of look at it. But I don't like the whole making black people one thing. We're not one thing. We're actually individuals. So I don't think there's any one broad blanket you could put over everybody. I think we all have our own, vices and things that we've gone through and things that we need and things that we want as far as a relationship is concerned. And I don't like it all just being crammed into we are like one thing.
Okay, all right.
I don't think women are raised to be marriage minded.
What was that? You said what?
I don't think women are raised to be marriage minded.
Why is that?
I mean, you got to think of my cultural background too. It's like I'm Hispanic. So it's like I was raised in an environment where it was normal to get married, be married for an extended amount of time or for forever when you walk into it. But that also comes with submission. And like I was raised Catholic, so in the biblical context. So as I was coming up, it became all these new movements of, oh, women got to be independent. You got to take care of yourself. That doesn't always align with what was going on when I was little and being submissive and working to foster partnership. I don't think that's what women are looking for anymore. Now, the context of what they're looking for is different. They're looking for a man who could take care of them, who got a certain level of stature, they're looking at other things. It's not all about partnership and what being marriage minded takes.
So you think they want everything that comes with marriage without the marriage?
Exactly. I mean, and you hear that every day. You hear a whole bunch of people talk about the idea of like, we're getting married for this, or they're marrying somebody who aligns with their goals as far as their career is concerned, or I can't marry somebody if they don't align with what I'm doing over here, or people's marriages falling apart because it doesn't align with what they're trying to do or whatever that like, but that's not what being married is about.
Okay.
And it can't sustain long term if that's why you do it, because people change.
I agree with that. People change. What you got, Boo? What you got, Rick?
What she sounded like she was conveying is that most of the times nowadays, people are not being raised to think about marriage as much as, for women anyway, I would say, but to be more hyper independent, because a lot of people are seeing that relationships don't work, or the whole mindset of you have to be able to not need a man, be independent, be able to do it all on your own. So yeah, it's not being raised to be in the mindset of wanting to be a wife or being married, because I don't think there's a lot of confidence that women have nowadays, and men being able to be the traditional husband or even have traditional families. Most children are raised in broken homes.
Right.
There's more children who have step siblings than actual siblings. So, I mean, yeah, they're not raised to be that way. But I would also say I think that that's more geared towards Western culture than the entire population of the planet. When you go to people who are not so tied to the westernized Eurocentric type of thought, they're not in the same boat. Those women are being raised in a different way. Yeah. But that's cultural, it's economics, it's a myriad of things.
Mm-hmm. I don't. Men are raised to be providers. Men are raised to provide. And that kind of goes hand in hand with traditional views. It's like, if you're not, a lot of guys they're not raised to be, I'm going to provide for a family. So that affects how women look at them, how they're viewed. If you're a provider, I think it would be easy to find a wife. I don't think it would be that difficult, regardless of how independent they want to be or anything of that nature. I think if you're a provider and you find a woman that's looking for a provider, it works. I think a lot of people have single mindsets and want to be married. You can't have it both ways.
I think we need to hear what Nay has to say.
Hey, I just think that we all come, like she said, like Amanda said, we all come from a different background, and it takes communication. Like the communication need to be had right off. Everybody comes from a different background. I don't even like the whole thing of being raised to get married. Why should that be our goal, to be raised to get married? It's hard enough trying to be an individual. So, but to say a gender or a race is not I don't want to be raised to be with my cattle. I don't want to be raised to be this. I want to be raised to understand, my feelings and everything. And then if I'm blessed to have a man to come in, we will have to, and if I have to do it again, I want to have that communication of expectations. I think love language is important. And then the whole idea of communication and someone knowing what I'm expecting, because I think from what I've experienced, and I don't want to speak for every man, I haven't met every man, line up and let me meet you guys. But if I had to speak, the men that I spoke to think that I have dealt with only think that providing is the key, and leave a lot of the task of what the other stuff doing in the house is for the woman, and they babysit their kids. So that conversation needs to be had before getting married, because just generalizing it and saying that, we're not built to be or raised up to be married, I don't want to do that anyway. So maybe that's not my goal. However, every man is different. Every female is different, Somebody might have a desire to be provided for, and somebody wants to be able to work as well as he works. And then we sharing the parenting so that I can go to this meeting and you could go to this meeting. And I don't want to put my life on back burner while you do that. So every marriage is different. And I just think communication, maybe counseling beforehand would be beneficial, because I don't want to be boxed in with every other woman saying that that's my idea of it. That's my opinion. They generalize that whole conversation that we listen to. They generalize women.
Right.
She has not met me.
All right. I think there's sometimes people don't like when a conversation is general, but we have to kind of look at demographics. We have to look at the trends. We have to look at the numbers, and so we have to speak in general terms, because we always know there's exceptions to the rule, but I don't care about the exceptions. I care about the rule. So you're saying you don't necessarily subscribe to raising women to become wives, but I would challenge you to say that what is the foundation of any great society? I want to know what everyone's answer is to that before
when I said that, I think it is because it's not just raising a woman to be a wife. A husband has value to his family. It's equal. You can't raise a woman to be a wife and then the man is insufficient in what he's supposed to do, or he's selfish, or he only thinks about himself, or he's not helping out. So it's not, I feel like there's a lot of good women that are raised to be, it's in our instincts to be natural, a lot of women to be natural caregivers and to be easily like accommodating. Like we get these children and we don't know what their personalities are going to be, so we kick in. But I just don't believe that men want, sometimes it's focused on the woman, where women are supposed to be raised up like that. But I think it's highly important for men to be raised up that way. It has to be. Even culture, I don't like culture. And I understand we live in that world that everybody is about, what the woman's supposed to do, what she's supposed to do, but men need to be raised up as well to know how to do more than just provide.
So I agree, because leadership and the ability to be a successful husband or father, those are things that obviously you can't expect a woman to be the epitome of a wife and a mother, and you're not coming to the table with also fulfilling your role. I completely concur with that. I'm just going back to your statement that you don't agree with raising, because I agree with raising my son to say, when I'm instilling certain things in him, I'm doing it with the intention of, you're someone's future husband and father. I'm totally doing it with the intention of instilling in him a certain level of understanding about, hey, no one's coming to save you. And if your house ain't looking right, and if your children ain't looking right, and if your woman ain't looking right, they're looking at you. The weight of that falls on you. No, even from the standpoint of, prime example, a woman will look at another woman at times, and if she's not able to, I guess, personify or look as though she's doing okay, they're looking at her man as being the reason. But it don't work in reverse for a man.
I feel like I'm being accountable for everything. Like even in a bad marriage, it's like why wasn't she there? Why wasn't she didn't do this? Why didn't she? I don't feel like men are held accountable. I've seen videos where
men are definitely held accountable.
Ooh,
men are definitely held accountable. Yeah. Men, when your daughter's on the pole, they're not chasing down the mama. They're saying, where was her daddy?
Dad, yep.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's for sure.
And the other part that slightly is upsetting me with that is to not acknowledge that is kind of like living in fantasy. Like, no, every girl who goes astray, you know what they say? Where do you think the term daddy issues comes from?
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways, because you got daddy issues and mommy issues.
You do, but right now we're talking about fathers and men. So women, yes, same thing.
I mean, well, to reference your question was the foundation of society, right?
A family.
It's family. Your
fathers,
foundation,
mothers,
it is family. But it's family, and it's also connection. It's family gives you structure. It's knowing that mom, dad, children. That's just structure. That's us working towards something for the entirety of our time here, right? But when we look at connection, we're looking at what gives that meaning. And people are not being taught to communicate love and kindness and like necessary. And we're being taught like lazy love, minimal effort. Like
I can see that.
The accountability is like selective accountability.
Yes. That definitely can be the case. It's just to say that you don't necessarily think you should raise someone to be a husband or a father or a mother or a wife. That's not the intention. I don't know how that helps society as a whole.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that has to be like I said, because I do think family gives it structure. So I think the idea of saying like, yes, one day that's going to be a part of the natural evolution. I don't think that should be in its entirety.
Yes, that's what I meant. I don't believe that it should be in its entirety, because sometimes women, when they raise themselves to be, or they're raised to be that, they lose themselves in the marriage, and there's no individuality with that. So I'm saying, like, raising someone just to be that is like, it should be
that shouldn't be the sole focus of who that person is.
Well, I don't think that we were saying that should be the sole focus, but it is a huge component if you'd like them to one day have that in their life. Like, would you agree that there are a lot of women who are raised to be hyper independent? I don't need a man. I could do everything by myself. I'm not. That's not.
I think that's because a lot of boys are not being raised to understand their roles. I'm a mother of 3 boys, and I told them they are important. They are vital. It is not her job to do all the work and you babysit your children. There's going to be tasks that needs to be done. You need to have a conversation with your wife. I'm raising them to know that. Like, you need to have a conversation with your wife. How can I help out? What can I do daily? It's not, she just had a baby, she need a bond with the baby. No, we need a bond with the baby. We need to check in on each other. And I said that sometimes that get lost. So it's not just, I just feel from my experience that a lot of men think that their sole purpose is providing. And a lot of the weight of raising the children is left up to the woman. So if it fails, or you don't grow together, then the wife is left not knowing who she is, because she was raised to be a wife. And now if that fails, what is left of that person?
I think there's a lot to say about the man who uses that word babysit, when it comes to his own kids.
I've never met a man who said he's babysitting his kids. I'm just saying me.
Yeah, but I've heard men that say that shit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm like, it's your own kid. What the fuck? So and the ones who think that money is everything, and they don't spend time. Spending time is more valuable than just.
That goes back to that provider mindset. There are a lot of men out there who believe like, oh, if I'm providing, if I'm paying all the bills, I don't have to do nothing.
Your lights don't they? The rent paid, don't they? No, motherfucker. You supposed to be here and these your kids too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's come from, like you said, we raise our sons to be men, then we raise them to be providers, then we raise them to be husbands and everything like that. All that stuff encompasses into one strong man. You feel me? One strong man. And I know, just like Boogie, just like Mac, I look down on dudes that are not good fathers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, are you in your kid's life? I could. My whole clique, they take care of their kids. They go to the games. They got their kid with them. They watching their kid all the time.
What's your kid's best friend?
They their kids first. I don't like dudes that just drop the money off and bounce. I don't like cats like that. I don't like that.
I think there's a lot of
So I'm sorry.
There's a lot of horrible fathers and a lot of horrible mothers. There are people who don't understand.
It goes both ways. It does go both ways.
So one last thing, and then I'll let you take it, Boogie. So I get what Shanae is saying. Is saying you're raising. You're saying the topic of the video was, or what I got from the woman is, women are not being raised to be wives. And what I gather from what Shanae and Amanda are getting at is, okay, well, what is the man being raised to do? You know what I'm saying? Because
I agree. I agree with the sentiment.
And that's lacking as well in our environment. What the percentage of men nowadays are not being raised that way.
No,
The same way the women are not being raised that way. So
Yeah.
it's I think it's fucked on both sides. My
And a
bad.
lot
I
of
think
that
women
is
are
due
being
to
raised
both
to be in
black
a
back up.
state. Women are raised to be in a state of hyper independence all the time. Like, I even got told that coming up. Like, make sure you could do for yourself. Make sure you could do this. Make sure, because if he gets up and leaves, and that's a trauma response. That's somebody saying, like, I'm expecting you to be hyper independent because you need to be over reliant on yourself, never need anyone for help. You're always going to need to be fine by yourself. And that's almost the exact opposite of what you need to be doing.
But
Like,
doesn't it go back to the point of life, how you was raised, that you saw that women had to bear a lot of the heavy lifting? Because I know in my
I didn't see that at all. I grew up
I
with
didn't see that either.
background,
I didn't
no,
see where she did the heavy. I saw him do a lot of heavy lifting as well.
my mom was
It-
boss. He did like
yeah, see, I didn't have the single mother where she did everything.
but she wasn't
Yeah.
single. Yeah, but I saw a lot of heavy lifting, and I seen a lot of the women in my family do majority of the heavy lifting. So if
But
some certain things,
were you looking for the other side though? Because if
Can
you're
we
only looking
define?
at her doing the heavy lifting, you don't see what's also being done by the father.
well,
It's
I
like you got
found
to look at both.
that in my experience, I can only speak in my experience, if certain things, let's say that certain things that I put out there that needs to be done, it's like, to me, if it like there's a window, if it needs to be done and that's not being done by you, then I have to kick in and I have to handle it myself, because else nobody's coming to save me. So if there's something that needs to be done and I'm like, well, this needs to be done, and I don't get that, let me, oh, what time, when, and all that. And I hear excuses like, oh, I got to go to work. I got to, because I'm a provider. Then that is kicking in, that we have to, kick in and do that part of it. We have to do that part of it.
I need a
So,
specific thing now because
But we're
that's so
being,
we
generalized.
are being, like, women are taught that mindset. They are taught that mindset by other women, like, because women have experienced struggling to receive help, so they withhold affection, or they do something to avoid vulnerability, because that is aligned with losing control of a circumstance. So if I give too much, he can disappoint me or he can let me down. And that's it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We have to, that when our role is to be nurturing and to be soft, it allows a man to exercise in masculinity. So some of that creates balance, and sometimes it does take giving a little and feel like you're losing to get the response you're looking for. And I don't think women are taught to do that, because we grew up in an environment where women were taught to be hyper independent and strong all the time.
I like what you're saying about growing up in that environment, because I do think it goes back to Western society and culture, the feminist movement, a myriad of different things that have changed even what the expectation is regarding gender roles. Like people will push back at gender roles not being something that makes sense, and I totally disagree with that. I think traditional gender roles do make sense. And when people buck against that, that's where you get a lot of confusion and improper expectations. Like there are so many people out here. They say the trends and statistics are that women are getting more degrees, making more money. They say these things, but we're at an all-time high of them being hyper independent and hyper unhappy.
that's I can't speak on that. I'm not hyper.
This is not geared towards an individual. I'm saying what the numbers show. Women are getting married less, so are men, and men are opting out for a bunch of reasons. Or you might have heard the term. Who on the panel has ever heard of a passport bro?
Yeah.
What's
These things? Right.
That part. No, but you got to think about
someone elaborate to her what that is.
is that independence.
You got the
When we say
passport,
somebody
bro.
independent, they're supposed to be, if I'm independent, I'm free. That's what it goes to. Like if I'm independent, there's some sense of freedom in that. But hyper independence for women who are not married or in relation, and I'm not saying not being married or not being in a relationship makes you sad and lonely, but for a long, if you're doing that for a long period of time, hyper independence just, it's like loneliness disguised as strength. I'm gonna be by myself forever and I don't need nobody.
And it makes it, the longer you go down that path, it makes it harder for you to couple, because there is such a thing as getting set in your ways, and all those cliches are real.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they always say the longer you stay single, the harder you are to accept someone else. I mean, it's just
now. I agree if you stay open-minded
and
and you're staying well-rounded and you're dating and you're willing to incorporate somebody into your life and you're willing to be softer in some moments, because when you're by yourself, obviously you have to take on the role of everything. If you're willing to do that, then it might be easier for that woman.
And I agree with that. I think that if you stay single too long, but I think, like I'm gonna go back to, it cannot be the load of a woman to be raised up to be a wife. I feel that there has not been a focus on raising men, these boys, raising men to know what is their job, going beyond providing. And I think that is important. And the reason why, from what I've seen, the reason why a lot of women are not okay with being single is because that is lost. That sometimes it is expected of a woman to have kids, still be fit, still cook, still clean, still do this, still work, still do this. And then the man is supposed to, the weight is not there. So if you're not raising them to be, to come in with that same type of, no, sometimes you need to cook. You know, sometimes you need to go pick up the kids too. I have to work. It's not equal. So I just feel like, from what I've seen and what I've read, that a lot of women do not have time to teach a man how, or sometimes the men don't have a desire to sign up to be that. They stuck in their ways as well. They've been single for a while, or they don't want a nagging woman to tell them what to do or to do certain things. And sometimes it's not nagging, is you just have to have that adult conversation where, what is your expectations? Because sometimes people can expect things from you that you don't even know you're signing up for, you know?
I get the conversation. Let's sit down and talk about this before we get into this relationship. And that's what's wrong. Enough people don't talk prior to getting into a relationship. I know people who, they didn't have that conversation prior to, and now they 2-3 years in, now she wants kids and he doesn't. They didn't talk about it. How do you
have a conversation about something you ain't never done before?
Well,
if you were raised with an example, that's how you have a conversation about something you've never done before.
Yeah,
because
you have a point of reference.
Gonna do it this way, but some people come into something and say, "This is what I'm expecting," or "This is what I think it's supposed to look like," and can't sustain that.
That's true. That's true. But you said, how do you do it? Typically you have some point of reference.
You have an idea, a point of reference.
And then the conversation is still, and this is subject to change because we are forever evolving. So the certain things that I might need in my 20s, I might not want in my 30s. And that's just growing together. And then when in my 30s, I might not want that in my 40s. That's where that open communication is. Like, this is not a textbook of, me, we're forever evolving and we're supposed to evolve. So it's subject to change. So if, let's say that, instead of people branching out, going to someone else, if you had that conversation with this is what I'm needing. Remember, we had that conversation, is subject to change. Well, I'm changing and this is what I need. And then somehow, some way you just meet in the middle.
Or somehow, some way you just get divorced.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
that's not what I can do.
Yeah, because
but
what's up with the people who, and I off of what Boogie said, Ray said, because I agree with him. What happened to people who do have those conversations in their 40s when they meet this young lady and they say, "Yo, I don't want any more kids. I don't want to get married again. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 years in, here you go, like, hey, I want to be Mrs. Such and Such. I want another kid. No, I told you I didn't want any more kids, and I'm not getting married again.
Well, that goes back to what she said. It changes. People change.
And now he's the bad guy.
It gets, I think also, and this is a part that a lot of people will probably disagree with, it gets perpetually harder for women as they get older, as opposed to men in a lot of categories.
True.
It's like the window of time for us, usually when we hit me and Joe's and Mac's age group, we're probably making more money. We're probably more mature. We're probably more focused and less all over the place. And now,
bruh, I'm 29. I keep telling you that. Go ahead.
Well, okay. But you get to a point where if you're doing well, you're going to have way more options than a woman who similarly might have the same income, might have the same education. The opportunities are going to be broader and wider for that man, because even a woman who's doing well still wants a man that's going to match her or do better. Typically, men, when you're talking about finances, men are cooler with, hey, I'm not worried about your money. A woman looks at that as, hey, I'm not dating down.
Yeah.
So it's not the same. It's just not the same. We can keep making babies. Y'all, the time is going to get cut off. There's men out there who got a lot of money in their 60s and still making babies.
But that's when you have that conversation and you say, and then that's when, if it can't come to a conclusion, so that's when divorce is. And I'm not gonna, it's nobody's fault if someone's mature enough to have a conversation with me and let me know that they're changing their expectations and I'm not able to fulfill it. We don't own anyone. So I just feel like if that conversation, if a person came to me and be like, listen, this is what, I need now. And then I'd be like, what? There's no way that I can do that. And that's important to him. I will never go around telling people that they're to blame, because at least he gave me the opportunity to make a choice about my life. Like, instead of just branching out, going to someone else that may provide that part, we had a conversation. We cannot meet halfway. And that's important to him, in his 40s or in his 50s. That's important to him. He should be able to have what's important to him. And I don't want the stress of not giving that, him resenting me because I'm not giving that to him.
But that's me and you see eye to eye on that. But I could tell you, I know for sure that's not how women move nowadays. Like, it goes back to what Graf says. Like, you'll have that conversation later. A woman will say like, oh, I want this now. And when a man says no, they're like, oh my God, how could you do this to me? You're supposed to love me. You're supposed to, you're supposed to change with me. And then there's this button heads of, like, I thought if I would change, you would follow along with me because you love me so much. And I've heard my own friends do that. I've heard them do that. Like, I had a girl tell me the other day, she's pregnant. He, of course, told her, I'm love you. I'll be with you forever. And they're not together. And she's like, I can't believe he's doing this to me. What's he doing? He doesn't want to be with you. You want him to fake it because you're pregnant now? You knew what you were doing when you got pregnant.
And why are you getting pregnant when he said he didn't want no kids?
She trying to do what? What's she trying to do?
Too much technology to avoid it.
You think that, but at the same time, the responsibility is on both. Because if he said he didn't want to have kids, and you knew what you were doing when you did it, you knew what the chances were.
It is always on both. I'll give that to you. I'm being smart, but I mean,
but there are some people who later on they admit to someone that they did this. They knew in the back of their head when they got together that they didn't want any kids. I'm sorry, that they did want kids with someone who didn't want kids. But later on, that woman, I've seen people who have come out and said, I didn't get that shot in my arm. And
so I want
they lie about that birth control, and they continue to have relations, and all of a sudden, boom.
But you guys putting it all on the woman. If that man with the sperm do not want children, and he's have unprotected sex, that's why I say y'all always hold the woman accountable. she could not get pregnant if he didn't provide the sperm. If you don't want any children, go get a vasectomy. Why put her in a position to do that, and why put all the weight on her that she has to take the pill, she has to do it if he really don't want to? Because now if he's having unprotected sex and he did all of that, she couldn't have got pregnant without him doing it, and the birth control is only a percentage.
So question. Let's say their arrangement was, yeah, you're gonna be on whatever form of birth control, and then she has a lapse in taking it or doing something. But so they had the discussion. He says, "Oh, you're on the pill." She's like, "Yep, I'm on the pill," or whatever it is. And then there's a lapse in making sure that things are done so that you don't get pregnant. What about that scenario where he thought he was dealing with somebody who was on the same page?
Yeah, that's on her. You know, and it is. I do know a few women that always got pregnant when they talked about split. So I do know a couple.
What do you know?
Yeah, because my whole thing was she did it intentionally. I'm not saying she was taking it and the mistake happened, the percentage. I'm saying when she did it intentionally.
Now, I'm gonna say this. I do, and this is an unpopular opinion. I feel like it is on the woman, 100%, because it's my body. I can't wake up tomorrow if I'm the one pregnant. I can't wake up tomorrow and be like, just kidding, don't want the baby. It's attached to me. I can't do nothing with it.
Yes, at the same time, but I still feel like the conversation, if she still was on the pill, like that's why I say all circumstances should not be grouped together, because I do know women that has done that to try to trap a man. And now I don't understand that, because at the end of the day, you're going to be left with the kids. So I don't understand that part. However, if she's on a pill and there is a slip up but he's still not doing anything to protect himself. Or men, if they are adamant that they do not want any children, they should get a vasectomy.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't.
Well, here's the thing to that. Nowadays they can reverse them, but sometimes it's that they don't want. It's not that they don't want any children. They don't want any children with you.
With her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There it is. There it is. Hey, all net. There it is. With you.
If you know that, instead of trying to go raw, if you know you don't want any children be responsible. Because sometimes men love to be like, I didn't want this. Well, you did not protect yourself. There are signs that woman is getting a little desperate. There are signs where you're doing it. And sometimes I have found that men see the signs too, just like a woman. And they don't do, if you know for a fact that you do not want to have any children with that woman, then first, why you with her? And second, why you not strapping up?
Mm-hmm. I get it that the men share some of the blame, true indeed. And I have met men who intentionally get a woman pregnant to lock them down too. So yes, it can go both ways. Hey, is there anything else y'all want to say on this topic before we go to the next one real quick?
Hold men accountable. That's it. At the same regard that you hold the women. It's not. It's a two-way street. That's all I got.
What you got, man? Boogie.
My final. Everyone do their final comment on this subject. Now, go ahead, Amanda. Ladies first.
I think people just need to learn to be well-rounded individuals. Teach your kids Don't teach anybody to be any one thing. You shouldn't be raising men to be husbands only, women to be wives only. Like well-rounded individuals with a goal of raising a healthy family.
Amen.
True. What you got, Matt?
This segment has gone a little long, so I'm kind of lost in what the original topic was. But as far as raising people, you have to raise people to be like I'm sorry, I don't got the names. Like Amanda Love said, you have to raise people to be balanced. You have to have balance in you. Everything has to be balanced. You can't be raised to be one way. I'm just raised to be a farmer, but you can't keep the books of be owning a farm. You have to do multiple things. You have to have multiple disciplines in just about everything you do in life.
Yeah.
Got it. Right. What you got, Boogie?
I mean, just know what you want and be clear about it. Set an expectation before you embark on any committed relationship. And if they change or deviate from that down the road, you can't control that or stop it. But no, you don't necessarily have to change what you want. Some people are very clear about what they want, and they're not changing.
Yeah, you're right about that. No, true. Got it. Got it.
Right here.
So
That's me.
all right.
I ain't changing shit.
Let's go with the next topic real quick.
Men don't want to date single mothers, or men always talking about single mothers, this, that, and the third. This is a perfect example as to why. Because again, you expect this man to come in, be the man of the house, pay all the bills, be romantic, do all that, be a father to a son that he didn't have. That's not my son.
But he has no say so.
But he has no say so in the discipline. He has no say so in the guidance. He has no say so in how this house is going to be ran in regards to your son. So how do you expect me to be the man of the house when every time that I try to tell him something that's right, you bucking the system because you getting emotional, because you damn the message I'm saying, you processing it as, no, you can't tell my baby nothing.
Because it's my baby.
It's my baby.
Yep.
So as a man, how enticing is that of a situation to walk into? That's why men don't want to date single mothers. That's why.
Oh, I lived this one.
You can start it off. You can start it off, Mac. What you got? What y'all got?
All right, here. Okay, like I said, I lived this one for years. I wouldn't say that men don't want to date single mothers. Dating is different than actually trying to be like a stepfather or something along those lines. I had no problem dating single mothers because I wasn't trying to move into that role of being a stepdad or want to tell them what to do. But the one time I was involved deeply and she had a child before we got together, you run into those same obstacles where you have to walk on eggshells as far as the disciplinary thing is concerned. You have to because they don't always. There's a difference. It's a male, so it was a boy. So I innately feel like I know more about being a guy than she does, and she didn't always understand the techniques of raising a man. It's like she kind of wanted me to use her techniques. I'm not a mother, so I'm not gonna baby you and things of that nature. I might be harder on situations where she's softer, but I don't think it's a problem as far as dating. Dating a single, I had a lot of fun dating single mothers when I was younger. It's just as far as when you get into the serious aspect of a relationship, that's when it becomes a problem.
So a good question, because I like what you're saying, Mac, but he's saying these things in the clip are reasons why. Being that you did date single moms, you also probably dated women that had no children.
Yeah.
Which was your preference?
No children all day long.
So that was his point. His point was the issues with why men don't want to do it.
Yeah. But that didn't stop me. Them having children didn't stop me from dating them though.
Right. I don't mean, I guess, I know we all have to give our perspective of what we would do, but I'm saying society at large, do you understand the sentiment of men feeling like, nah, if I can avoid that, I'm trying to avoid that?
No, I don't. I
Okay.
don't think that's an overwhelming sentiment because the single guys I knew, they didn't have a problem dating single mothers. Because here's the thing.
How much did they have to lose? Because also, as you go up the economic ladder, your standards change of how much investment you're going to make. So when you're like, you just, you're not looking at it the same way as when you got way more to lose. That's my experience.
If you don't have children with them, you don't have anything to lose because you could always dip. You know what I'm saying? You're not stuck.
I mean resources that you're giving up now for, as you described it as, not their child. Like these guys who had no issues with it, I'm not trying to give you no names, but the guys who had no issues with it, were they well off financially? Were they just or were they like, hey, their shit's not even nothing to really write home about?
Here's the thing. As far as the financial portion of it goes, that's all what's in your heart. because technically you don't have to put anything forward. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think we were all around it. We were all young guys, so it was like no one had a bunch of money to begin with.
Now, as you talk to older men, who got more success, they're less likely and less inclined to want to deal with that shit.
I don't know, but a lot of them are tricks. A lot of them trick off, and they just want a younger broad.
But that's transactional. That's just transactional.
Yeah, but sometimes it's transactional. It's not, everything isn't for the best of reasons. Sometimes it is transactional, and you gotta, hey, if I want to be around her, then I gotta come off the dollars, and that's just what it is. But I don't think you should regret it. If you do it from your heart. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I just think when he was talking about the disciplinary part, that is the hardest part, because they don't really want you to. They like he treats him like his son, but they don't really want you to treat him like your son, because you're gonna be hard on your son, and they don't want you to be hard on their kid. They want you to take it lighter on them. Like, no, you want me to treat him like my son. This is how I would treat my son. So that's where that whole thing becomes too sticky. That's the part I didn't enjoy personally.
So last question, because I'm curious about this part. Being that became sticky and that was an issue when it came to discipline, that in no way though changed what she had for you as an expectation when it came to the responsibility, when it came to all the good parts.
Right.
You still need to you don't get any of this power, but you still have all the same weight, and treat him like your son in every other capacity.
In every other aspect, except when it's time to get on their ass. Then don't treat him like your son. Treat him like my son. You know?
And to me, that's a crazy way to think that it's gonna work.
But it's hard. It is hard. But you know, at the time, I had the ideals that, yeah, man, I'm gonna, he needs a male role model. He needs a figure to look up to, and I tried to do that, but it's not always roses. Sometimes you gotta apply the pressure to them, and that's when it became a problem, because they didn't always approve of the pressure being applied.
I feel you. What you think, ladies?
I think it depends on your intent in dating. If my intent in dating is just companionship, then it's relevant for me to keep the control when it comes to where I accept influence from this man. If my intent behind that is not just companionship and it's covenant, like long term, I have to allow influence in some way. I can't ask a man to lead me and be the man in my house and then block every lane he tries to move into, because it's not suitable.
That's what happens
in whatever moment it feels uncomfortable. If I wanna say that I'm allowing something to happen in unity, I can't pick and choose where I allow him to be.
I agree with you, Amanda. Now, what do you see most women do? You said what you think. What do you think occurs, generally speaking?
Generally speaking, we're more emotional. So we move in instinct. And our instinct with children is always to protect. They protect by instinct, that's our natural response. And so when somebody tries to say, like, I'm stepping into correct, we don't see it as correction all the time. We see it as rejection or criticism.
And
going in it, I think going.
Go ahead, Shanae.
I think going in it, you want to feel, because I was a single mom before I had gotten married, and I'm now happily divorced. But before I got into it, you want your child to feel, you want a bond to be created. You want to feel safe that person, like, because in a blended family, because it was a blended family, and if I didn't feel, I wanted a bond to be created where my child understood that, the discipline is going to be there, and vice versa. Like in the event that his daughter might have been doing something, I created a bond with her first. You know, we went shopping together. We went to Beyonce concert together. We kind of like did stuff together and we laughed and kiki. So if I said, hey, don't, I remember, not to go too much in detail, but there was a time when she consulted me about hygiene and certain stuff. Like, she felt comfortable coming to me and asking me questions. So the bond was created before I instantly started trying to act like I wanted to correct. I think sometimes men feel like they want to just jump in and start correcting when they don't have a bond with that child. And yes, you might see different things going on that the child might need a male figure for. But if you are just coming in as that constructive, like aggressive type constructive criticism or whatever, that child is not, or that mom is not going to see it like that. I'm all for someone guiding my son to do certain things and do that. But if they don't have a bond with you, how can
Well, I
you,
had the
why would I
bond.
feel?
That wasn't
Yeah,
the
but
case.
I do understand that some women do feel like they want to do all hats and stuff, but I'm okay with taking the reign as long as I know that my child is not going to be harmed. Like, we grew up even with my, in a big family, and my brother, he's like, yo, don't do that. And I know that he ain't gonna harm my child, so he can tell them, no, don't do that. But sometimes if that child is jumping, or that you can watch your child and he's reactive, and he didn't react like that with his uncle saying that, but he's reacting like the stepdad doing that, or then it may not have been, there's something there. So I just feel like that there has to be a bond created first before it is. And I think that sometimes I go back to the previous one where men are not taught to how to be anything other than a provider, so that deliverance might not be of a nurturing type. I just feel like sometimes men feel like they have to be aggressive with their things. Like, I've known some men, and I'm not speaking for every one of them, that will punch their child in the chest to teach them. That's just like, why are we doing that? Like, slavery's not here
We're
anymore.
aggressive. That's our nature, though. We're not nurturers. That's the difference.
That
Yeah,
is
sometimes you do.
So that doesn't
Yeah,
work. That doesn't work because
yeah, it does
no,
work. That's how
it
you
does.
create men.
You
Nah, I'm sorry. I
not punching
totally
see,
disagree with
that's,
that.
and as a mom, it is our job to kick in. That is not punching your
That's why
child
we
in the
got so many
chest.
gay kids now. That's why we got so many gay guys.
Mac, you're
Too
gonna
much
get the whole show shut down on the first go. No.
That is, but I think that is
like,
not teaching or punching somebody in the chest to teach them is not a lesson.
I
Besides, yeah, that's not a lesson to me. But I do understand that sometimes you need to be like, yo, have an aggressive demeanor to say, yo, stop doing, get the bass in your throat and be like, yo, stop doing that. And then let me show you a different way. But to me, I feel like sometimes coming from my culture of that because we was raised to see, I'm gonna just go deeper, that during slavery we had to beat our children because we didn't want to let the children feel the hate coming from the slave master. And I just think that sometimes we can be aggressive with our parenting, and I just think that we have to be open to relearn a different message than because if somebody punched me in the chest to teach me, I'm not gonna view that as love.
You're a
I'm not
girl.
trying to be
Yeah,
funny.
exactly.
No,
That's
it
what I was
doesn't.
gonna say. It
You're
does
a
matter.
girl.
No,
It does
that's
matter.
You're a
not.
It does
girl. It
matter.
does
Men and
matter.
women
That is
are
the
not
It
the same.
totally
I'm gonna say
craziest
that
matters.
out the
thing.
gate.
It
Yes, it
totally
does.
matters.
We're not the same.
Ask any child
I'm
when
not
they got
asking
punched in the.
children. That's why I'm
No,
the
ask a
adult.
child that was punched in the chest, that was beat like
I
that.
was
I was
punched in the
punched in
chest.
the
I was
chest.
punched in the chest.
I was
I was
punched in the
punched in the
chest.
chest. I was
Hello.
punched in the chest.
What did you
I'm
learn?
speaking from
I learned,
experience, not ego.
Learn.
can I answer it, Mac?
Yeah, what did you
Go ahead.
learn?
Go ahead.
You know what I learned? I learned that if you do not follow what the fuck I told you to do, there are going to be
Punch you in the
consequences. Let me
chest.
finish. No, let me finish. So I'm gonna say this. I need a moment to get all the thought out because I heard what you said, but there were a couple of things I learned. There's boundaries. There's rules and there's consequences. And not only that, how that carried over into my life was I understood that I can't just go breaking the law. My ass has to pay the fucking piper. Someone's not coming to save me. I do need to think. And I may need to weigh out sometimes, is the juice worth the squeeze? Sometimes that girl that I'm hanging out with, that I broke curfew with and kept my parents' car out all night, it was worth getting punched in the chest. Because I calculated like, hey, I had my fun and now I'm willing to pay the price. But if you're not willing to pay the price, don't do it. Don't do the, yes, sometimes you do need to understand that violence can solve things when it's
exactly.
Women have a luxury at times where as a girl, your father might only go so far with you and he's gonna have to keep talking. I told my son, you're not gonna get away with what you see your sister's getting away with when you're her age, as she was 16 and 17. Now he's 16 and 17, and I'm like, I'm not doing all that talking.
Yeah, everything, all discipline can't be verbal. They got to understand that. And as far as slavery goes, every culture has people that hit their kids. It's not just black people that punch them in the chest. White guys, they punch their kids
the punching
in the chest.
When they punch you in the chest, your heart literally, it's that one thing.
Man,
and
you be all right.
Some people need to be punched in the chest.
You'll be all right.
Not everybody, and it's very subjective. It's very subjective. It's situational. But to say there's a rule that punching a child in the chest is never going to get the point across.
That's just that rule. Just that punch. It is, and see, just like y'all think of, oh yeah, I got it done to me. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but you know what else? But you know what else? My father was an ex-Vietnam vet. He was very structured. Yes, sometimes he wasn't going to be nurturing, but you know what I did get from him? Logic.
Not when you got punched in that chest, though.
No. You know, guess what? It happened that one time, and I knew, hey, if you didn't like that, don't do that shit again.
Yes, you know why you didn't like it? Because in that moment when you got punched in the chest, your heart stopped and scared the crap out of you, and you was like, "Yo, let that not happen again." That's crazy. But
that's just not the context. That's not the context of time we live in now. Because I mean, that's just not what it is now. Yes, that's what it used to be. Absolutely. And I think there's something to be said for men that were raised in that time versus the men that we have today.
They're weak.
Good or bad. It depends on the man and who could take it and what way they took it and how they processed it.
Yes, there are always exceptions to the rule. No, not every child of this generation is weak. So let me be clear. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that we're setting up society to have a bunch of weak men.
Yeah.
We're setting up a society to get a bunch of participation trophies.
Yeah. And I think aggressiveness is important. I think that sometimes a male's voice and the thing is important. I'm talking about so many times how I heard men punching them in the chest. That's the only thing but aggressiveness is important. Like sometimes you need to yank your child. I am not one of those like what does it call those, what you just said, like one of those gentle parenting people. No. I'm not one of those people. I specifically am
from
talking
a man
about
to a woman though.
No, it is. Yeah, but the bond is important.
My mom yanking me when I was 16 made me laugh.
Because you can't. There is something to be said for a man guiding a boy to becoming a man, but there's also something to be said for having a bond before you do that. Like Boogie, you were saying, like your father punched you. That's your father. You know your father, so you know that there are certain things that he's teaching you over your lifetime. When you're a single mother and you bring a new person in. When that man it doesn't feel like love or guidance. It feels like control and abuse.
I agree with that.
That's what I meant.
I don't think that is the prescribed response for every scenario. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is you can't tell me it's never the prescribed response.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about single.
There are situations where violence solves things.
Mm-hmm.
That's
no.
Violence never solves
the only reason why I said that was because of the standpoint she was coming from.
We're talking about the single moms allowing a man to come in and do that, and I said it has to be a bond.
It depends on how long he's been. It
Yes,
depends on
it
how long
depends
you've
on
been
how long
Also,
he's
involved
been
rearing that
involved and
child.
what kind of relationship
right.
they've been creating with that child, and the bond that's been created, and how those, because I'll say, even for myself, I'm very old school. I go to my friends' houses sometimes and their kids come into a room and say something crazy, and I'm like, don't talk to your mother like that.
Hey,
And I don't even
and
know
we
that
was
kid.
raised like, yes, we was raised like that. I was
Because you
thinking
just don't say certain things. You don't respond to your parents in a certain, like, that's not okay. I'm not punching nobody in the chest, but I will quickly be like, I had a little kid get in front of me with his mom the other day and get in her face, and I was like, what are you doing, sir?
So I think I think we're going to the ultimate extreme of punching someone in the chest, when the overall sentiment that he was conveying to me was, hey, I want you to come into the life. Let's say it's a long-term relationship and you're living in the same house. You as a man sometimes will still have your hands tied when it comes to the level of discipline
Right.
you can go to with even
Right.
verbal discipline.
Right.
You could be talking to this
I never
woman's
want to punch her in
daughter.
the chest.
You don't. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to
exactly.
be. It doesn't have to be
It
that
doesn't have to be
scenario. They're
punching you
just
in the
saying that
chest.
sometimes you have all the responsibilities, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not getting all of
The power.
the leeway and the
Yeah.
power.
my question is, did you create like, you coming in, are you just a present there, or are you involved? Is the only time that you are saying something to the stepchild or the other child is when there's a corrective thing? Like, are you spending time with the child? Because
That goes
sometimes
back to
people,
creating a bond. If
but
you
that's what
created the
yes,
bond, you
that's
have
what I'm saying. But
okay, but
sometimes people go in
that's
signing.
done. Let's say you've created the bond. I'm talking about the bond's created, and it's still bitching when I get on them about something. I'm
Yes,
not talking
that
about my
happens.
first day coming. I'm like, hey, pick up your clothes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about I've known him. He was like the only male figure he's known in his life. And it's still an issue years later when I have to listen, man. You don't do stuff like, well, why you gotta tell him about that? And then I'm not even talking about. I never hit him. My own son that comes from my
Crazy.
loin, I punch him in the chest. But someone else's kid, I don't believe in that either.
I got a
Because that's
question
not
for you,
something
Nate.
that
I got
I created.
a
So
question
we
for
Well,
you, Nate.
same page on that.
Do you think that there are scenarios where a mother may be just instinctually overprotective, and she needs to and she needs to loosen up the reins? Do you think there are scenarios where it's completely justified what the man is trying to implement, say, and or do, but she's babying a motherfucker who might be of age to drive, and he needs to learn some man shit before he's out there dealing with the real world?
Man, shit.
And there are plenty of women who they want all the benefit of you being the provider and protector, and you might even live with them. Maybe you didn't get married, but you're helping her in some capacity with raising that child if y'all are running a household together. And then they put a limitation on how there's women who marry the man. And I would hope by that time she's allowed her children to get to know him well enough before she entered into that commitment. And they still put this limitation. Sometimes the factor is not even anything more than the father, the biological father, doesn't want that type of rearing to be done by someone other than him. But his ass ain't even around. But he comes once a month or every other weekend or whatever the cadence is. And the child will say one day, you ain't my daddy.
Yep.
Shouldn't even be tolerated. I just
But,
feel like
but do you believe that happens?
Yes, I definitely believe that happened. I've heard of that happening. But the reason why I'm going back to my original thing where the bond has to be set first, where it's not just you are occupying, you're just there and you only are talking to the child when for construct, to get him in order. The bond is created. I'm just careful now of what I signed up for. If you already see that she's gonna have a problem with that, I wouldn't have signed up. Like, she needs to be by herself then. If she doesn't want, I wouldn't sign up for all of that. But I have seen women do that where they baby them. They act like they can't be yelled at. They smother them and all. And I'm not a believer of that. I just feel like that they should But a person will not, if I'm dating someone, he will not automatically, if there's not a bond, they're not hanging out, they're only talking, he's not going to sit there and say, take out the trash and do all of this. And he doesn't even, it hasn't said anything to my child since then. I wouldn't even want that person around me.
I think those are convenient extremes. I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of situations where you are going through different stages with the child. So the way you're dealing with them when they're in middle school is different when they're now 16, 17 years old. And so she might have allowed you a certain amount of leeway, but then once they hit another stage of life where the type of discipline and communication and the way you're going to talk to them, it may need to be modulated to be turned up a bit, and the aggression may need to pop out, and they're like, whoa. The way I deal with my son when he was, and this is my son, the way I dealt with him at 10 ain't the same as how I deal with him at 16. Right. I'm going to verbally communicate with him, and the way I'm going to tee off on him is going to be a little bit stronger and harder. And you can modulate that to fit the situation at hand. There are plenty of people who've built the bond as Mac just described, and I'm kind of familiar, but I don't want to get, but he was dealing with this child as a toddler, and then got to the stages of life where they're teenager. So that's plenty of time to say, hey, you trust this man. And then there are instinctual things that I'm sure we'll never relate to, where a woman feels like, hey, I got to protect them, because in the back of their mind, maybe they don't trust this man, that all of his intentions are pure. Maybe they think maybe they think there is some alternative motive, and there isn't. It's just, this is what's right, but they don't like to see their child broke down like that.
Right.
When they see their child, sometimes you should break somebody down and let them feel the burn.
Yep.
And
then you build it back up too. But
I find that a lot of times
build it back up.
The default for women in those scenarios is, you're going too far. No, you didn't have to do all that. No, you did. You just don't know what it is, because you were never raised to be a man, and you don't even understand from the aspect of the pressure that is going to be placed on him later on. You need to allow them to let that pressure turn cold into diamonds.
Hey, I heard that before.
Yeah. Wise man once told me that, Mac.
I agree.
Yeah,
it has to be like that. And I think that is crazy. And I have heard women doing that. And because a lot of times, like the only thing that I say, if the bond is there and he's paying the bills and he's involved in the child, he's not just, he sees that he's trying to be involved with the child, he should have a right to, even if the dad is around. The dad can't come over every time in the new man's house and say, okay, your son is acting up, and then that's that bond too with the dad. Like, they need to talk and be like, listen, I'm not gonna put my hands on your child, but if he's doing A, B, and C in my house, I am going to step in and I'm gonna say, yo, do this and do that. But out of respect, I think the conversation has to be there where a bond is formed, because I don't understand how a person could be around a child since a toddler. And if they have a bond, why he wouldn't be able to instruct that child? That's crazy.
You don't understand it, but it does happen. And
that's crazy.
I want to ask this question of the men. Both of y'all have sons, as do I. Would your advice be to say, hey, if you can, avoid getting with a woman long-term who has kids?
Absolutely.
Or hold on, I can see how quickly you answer. Or would you say, you know what? You never know what'll happen. It could be done. It's achievable. It's okay. You should go. Or would you say, hey, yeah, it can be done, but why pick the harder fucking path?
Here's the thing. I would say absolutely do it without, if she's starting from scratch. Because, I didn't have any kids at the time. I was starting from scratch. So I I would have preferred someone else starting from scratch. But here's the thing. It comes down to how much you like her. Because you're gonna put up with more. She got a kid and I really like her, then I just gotta sacrifice. That's just what it is.
Right, right. It is gonna come down to that. I just want to know, what is your advice? He hasn't picked anyone like that. He's not in love with anyone. He don't like no one. You're giving him advice. Hey, here's something that is gonna pop up.
Yeah. I'd say definitely start with no kids.
Joe.
I mean, yeah. If you're gonna start fresh, you would definitely say start with no kid. I think any woman who has a son would advise her son the same thing.
I know. But there are a lot of scenarios too where
they wouldn't tell
a woman might say that. A woman might say that to her son, but she could be a single mom herself saying, "But that don't apply to me. A man should want to rock with me."
I just don't think at our age it's a realistic expectation. Like,
well, it depends. It depends. What do you mean at our age? You mean at our age, like for a man to find a woman without children?
I think it's less likely. I'm not saying impossible. I'm definitely not saying impossible. I'm saying less likely. Your pool, as we get older, whatever our preference is, right? Yep. Our pool is getting smaller. And if you want somebody who's like stable, makes decent money, and you start saying like, oh, don't have kids, don't have this, the more things that you are considering that you don't want, the smaller that pool of people is.
So I'm glad you brought this up.
Go ahead.
As a woman gets more successful and a man gets more successful, would you agree they have more options? Because men do. I can't speak for women, but it don't feel like they have the same level of options as a successful man.
I don't think it's equal. I don't think it's equal because women, I think we look at different things. We're looking at different things. Like a man can easily at 40 or 50, he could get with a woman who's
30
20 or 20 something, 30 something and adjust.
The difference is
a woman is less likely to do that.
The difference is that beautiful woman gonna have a long line around the block of guys who just want to fuck. Man gonna have a long line of women around the block who want to marry him, lock him down. That's the difference. That's the difference.
So when you say, because when you say that at this stage or age, I don't feel like that. I feel like men have an advantage in that way, and it may be unfair, but I feel like we kind of have an advantage.
It is unfair. It is unfair.
We have more of an advantage.
You do. No, you definitely do. And when I say at this age, I'm assuming, and I'm looking at the people we're talking to, right? That we're talking amongst each other. Obviously, that doesn't apply to everybody. But as we are getting older, just off of knowing you guys many years, right? We're getting older. There's many things changing about us. We're getting smarter. We're getting more attentive to our mental health and well-being. That doesn't apply to everybody. Some people might throw that shit out the door and say, well, I could get with that later. Or I could get with somebody who's 25, 30 and they'll grow up and I could deal with the nonsense in between. And then you have other people who are looking at it and going like, I want somebody who's kind of past a certain stage. I want somebody who's kind of out of some bullshit. I want somebody who has maybe less children or no children. And as you get to thinking in that way, that pool gets smaller.
True. I agree with that. And as far as the kids at the age, I think that most older people in their 40s, 50s, it's hard to find somebody who doesn't have kids. But it's how old are your kids? It's and how many do you have?
I think it's if you have custody of your kids, because women have the primary, typically speaking, they're the primary caregiver. They have custody. A man could be living almost as if he has not as many children or responsibilities because he's relegated to whatever his window of time that he has them. They don't primarily reside with him. So a woman might say, hey, I'm trying to date, but I only can not bring when I'm just trying to court somebody, I can only do that in the beginning stages and not having around my kid every other weekend. Whereas a man has all week, every week, and he can put in more time.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic.
To do things. Right. So it's
because you have more time, opportunity. Like if I limit that to, because I've had that conversation, because I was a single mom. Like I was married for years, and then when we were separated, it was just me, my daughter, and I was like, oh, if I can't have anybody around her ever, and I'm a single parent, and my ability to navigate that is limited by leaving her with somebody or babysitters or whatever, then I can't realistically expect that a man would only be seeing me, only be dating me when his window of time to do that is this big.
Right.
It's not necessarily fair to have that expectation.
Yeah, it'll never be fair in that regard.
True.
So do you think that in some way that is there any way for a woman to compensate in something like that? Like does she just have to perform like well above the bar to be sustainable? Like
that's a good question. I'm not sure, because
you got some women in that realm that they just have their own life too, you know, and they get with that dude when they get with that dude.
Yeah, but I'm saying long term, right? Like if I'm dating somebody and he looks at me and he says, "Oh, she got a great career. She's a good woman." Yeah, that would be somebody that I could see myself with long term. But realistically, I have a child also. So my window of time is kind of like Boogie said, like if I only got her, if it's only every other weekend, or it's only maybe a day or two a week that I have the availability to see this person in the very beginning, but they have time to date and get to know people, then where does that leave me in the running? If
in a scenario where you should stay with the father. That's where it leaves you. Sorry. That's where it leaves you. Yeah.
Look at Grab. Grab is like,
I'm glad I could bring it to the last, but because it's just a lot, man. Like it's just a lot.
Yeah, it is.
he's like, well, damn. Like, yeah.
Yep.
It's a lot, boss.
It's a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
You know, can it be done? Yes, but it's just like, that's why I think a lot of more successful men, they don't entertain that. The more successful they are, the more they want that woman to be on their time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't be, when there are a bunch of people who can be,
then why? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's very true. That's very, I've seen that many times. Or, I mean, I will say I've enjoyed dating older than it was.
Tell us why.
Because I think as we grow, if you're dealing with people that have been intentional about growing, as we grow, men and women are just more honest about what they want and what they're looking for.
That's true.
Yeah.
So they're more transparent about, this is what I'm willing to do and not willing to do.
Do you ever think that there are people who are holding themselves back if they're in a scenario where I'm going to put it back on a successful woman? Let's say you're doing well for yourself. Do you think you sometimes look at, not you specifically, women in general may look at the monetary aspect over character, over some of the things that are not as worldly or
oh, for sure.
So the reason why I think it's more advantageous for us is we never go into a real man, in my opinion, doesn't go into it worried about her money, because we already presume that it's on us.
I think you have to go through some stuff not to do, because we are, I don't want to say everybody, but women are typically taught that if you're taught that a man is a provider, the natural, if parents are not specific about what that means, the mindset becomes provider means financial. Right? So if we're not taught that provider could mean a lot of things.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. Because when I say provider, that means a number of things. You're not just providing my financial
Money.
stability. There's a lot
Mhm.
of things about being a provider. You are providing and protecting, but you're providing an
Mental
environment.
stability,
You're providing
environment,
mental
peace,
stability. Yes, all of those things. Like
all
you're
that.
protecting
Guidance,
us physically.
direction.
You're
Got it.
protecting my heart. You're
Yep.
protecting your family.
Got
So
it.
there's a lot of aspects of that people are not taught in a specific way.
Right.
We do correlate the two together. Like, oh, if he's not financed, so you got to go through some shit, I think, in a relationship to realize, okay, that's not, because I got to a point in dating where I said, like, yeah, that's not as important as I thought it was. But I had to be married, and I had to be married to a man who was a provider, but not as concerned about where I was
Every,
emotionally and
yep.
everything else. I had
Yep.
to date people that had no money, or that I was dating and they were doing really good and then lost a job. And I was like, oh, what do I do with you now? Because
Mhm.
what are you doing?
Right.
Right.
Or see somebody who had no money and said, like, oh, now I ain't got no money, so it's time for me to step up in other ways. So then I started to learn the value of, like, what can you bring to the table when you don't bring financial security?
Mm-hmm.
And what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Dang,
think
I'm
you
about to
really
cut
got
out
to
in
go
a
through
second.
some shit to get there.
We about to shut it down.
Oh, okay.
No, I get it. I get it. No, and I agree with everything you said. I think in today's society, so many people put the onus on money and not everything else. And when they get that, or as they grow older, they realize, wow, I had this shit backwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But some people are older and still got it backwards. That's it. That's it. So that's why when they dump the guy who was everything else but didn't have that money, they realize, and then they get the guy with money, they miss the other guy. They really do. They still call. They pick up the phone like, I messed up. You did. And now when you get back to that guy, now that guy done came up and he ain't thinking about you. Deuces. All right. So with all that said, any last thoughts? Anything y'all want to say about this before we shut it down?
And I think we covered the two topics that we had pretty well. I enjoyed this. We'll get better.
No, definitely, definitely. Any shut. All right. What you got? What y'all got? Amanda, Nay.
Nah, I enjoyed myself. It's a good little debate, but I think the basis of all of it is that, like, people are going to be individuals. We get taught what we get taught, and we got to sort out what we want and what that's going to look like in our life on an everyday, realistic basis, and sort it out as we go.
Yeah.
True.
I guess my final thoughts are just that life isn't fair. We're not equal. Everything is very fluid when it comes to how you're going to navigate whatever you're presented with. But it's always important to set the expectation and be clear with whoever it is you're embarking on this journey with. Like, hey, here are my deal breakers. And be very honest about that. Now, if you change and evolve, yeah, that could happen, but at least, you were honest with where you were in the beginning, and then you just need to communicate that as time progresses. Because if you're with someone raising a child, especially, and you start to cohabitate and live together, now you have other variables like that child's biological mother or father. And that can be very difficult to navigate, especially when the child is young.
True. What you got, Nay?
Great conversations. I have nothing else to say.
All right. Well, hey, thanks to everybody. We're gonna shut this down for a day. Appreciate y'all for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See y'all next week. Peace.